So let's talk about something that might feel, well, a little too familiar. It's this puzzle, right? The person who has these gigantic dreams of building an empire, but maybe struggles to, get started on a Tuesday morning. It's this wild mix of being super ambitious and, from the outside, looking completely lazy.
I mean, how does that even work? It feels like a total contradiction in terms. How can you hold these massive, world-changing goals in your head, but at the same time feel totally stuck when it comes to taking that first step? If you've ever been there, you know exactly how maddening that feeling can be. So let's actually break down what's really going on under the hood.
And here's where you can really see that clash in action. Over on one side, you've got the ambition. We're talking huge, epic visions, creating a masterpiece, changing the world. But then you look at the other side, the actual action, and it's a lot of thinking. It's days, maybe weeks of research and planning, but the doing part, it just seems to be permanently on back order. All right, so this whole thing has a name, the ambitious procrastinator paradox. And the very first step to really understanding it is to peel back the label we usually slap on this behavior, to unpack that big common misconception. Because what's the first thing we do, or the first thing other people do? We call it a character flaw. We say, oh, that's just laziness, or you need more discipline. It's the simple, easy answer. But what if that's not just a little bit wrong? What if it's completely backwards? Okay, so if we're throwing out the character flaw idea, what's left? Well, it turns out it's all about a different kind of math that's happening in your head. Let's call it the mental energy equation. Because this isn't about being lazy. It's about a very specific and usually subconscious calculation. And the key term here, the thing that makes it all click, is something called strategic energy evaluation. Now that sounds fancy, but all it means is that your brain is constantly, subconsciously weighing the cost of a task, how much mental energy it's going to take, against how big of an impact it will have in the long run. If a task feels like it's not the most efficient path, your brain just slams on the brakes. So here's how that thought process plays out, probably without you even realizing it. First, you lock onto that big, shiny, high-impact goal. Then your mind immediately starts scanning for the perfect, most efficient way to get there. But here's the trap. It looks at the messy, immediate steps you could take right now and dismisses them as inefficient, as busy work. And so what happens? You delay. You hold off, telling yourself you're just saving up your energy for when the right approach finally shows up. And this chart, it shows you exactly what that internal value system looks like. Look at that. Almost all of your mental energy is being saved for tasks you think are going to have a huge impact. Then there's a good chunk set aside for planning that perfect route. But inefficient busy work? It's basically nothing. Your brain has this deep, almost allergic reaction to wasting effort on anything that doesn't feel like a straight shot to that grand vision. But what's really driving this whole calculation? What's underneath it all? Well, that brings us to what you could call perfectionism's waiting game. This is where the sheer size of your ambition is the very thing that brings you to a complete standstill. And this is so important to get. This inaction, this laziness, it doesn't come from a place of not caring. It comes from the absolute opposite. It's a direct result of caring so much, of having such an incredibly high, perfect standard for what the final thing should look like, that any imperfect little first step today feels like a total disaster before you've even started. I want you to really let this sink in. For the efficient dreamer, the cost of starting imperfectly feels higher than the cost of not starting at all. That just nails the internal logic, doesn't it? The fear of doing it wrong feels way more dangerous than the consequences of just weeding. And this chart just lays out that internal risk assessment so clearly. In this mindset, the perceived cost of taking an imperfect first step is through the roof. It feels like you're ruining the entire dream right from the get-go. But the cost of waiting for that perfect plan, that feels low. That feels smart. It feels safe. Okay, so with all that in mind, let's pull all these ideas together. It's time to completely reframe this behavior, to find a new way of looking at what we've been calling laziness. So when you really look at it this way, what we're seeing is not a lack of motivation. That's the old story, and it's just not true. It's actually the complete opposite. It's the crushing weight of a very specific, incredibly high-stakes motivation. The goal is so massive, so important, that it creates its own kind of gravity, one that can hold you in place. So let's just recap what it really means to be lazy but ambitious. It means you're running on a totally different mental energy equation. It means you have a powerful, gut-level resistance to anything that feels like wasted effort. It means your action gets held hostage by how big your future goals are. And maybe most importantly, it means the inaction you feel is actually a symptom of perfectionism. At the end of the day, the driving force here was never a desire to do less. It's a deep-seated need to make sure that every single ounce of energy you finally do spend gets you the biggest possible return. It's all about effectiveness, not just activity. So I'll leave you with this. The next time you feel that pull, that thing you call laziness, just pause and ask yourself, is this really me not wanting to do the work? Or am I just carrying the weight of a goal so big, I'm terrified of taking anything less than the perfect first step?